So we're recording this on Friday night, and I'll be honest, I wanted to record it Wednesday. Um, I think JP was good to do so as well, but one of us couldn't make it that night, and I promised him that because the reason was so ridiculous, he would have to explain himself on the podcast. Christian, why didn't we record Wednesday?
I don't know. Why didn't we record on Wednesday?
Well, I don't know. I heard there was some machinery issues at your home that you couldn't get your wash done properly. Please go
Yeah.
on.
Oh yeah. So our dryer broke. So I had no clean clothes left and our washer still worked. So, I like to go to the gym after work, because I like to, get active afterwards. And then I got back and I was like, "Oh, I think we're supposed to be recording tonight." And I was like, "Well, I already did 2 loads of wet laundry, and if I don't dry them now, they're gonna stink." So I had to go to a laundromat for the first time in my life, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah? Would you
Yeah,
recommend it?
I would. I'd recommend the one on Lawson Road. It's very clean.
Okay.
A dry is only $1.50 and dries them pretty good too. Usually with the dryer at my house it would take a longer, but yeah. So I had legitimate reason. I need clothes to live, guys.
It was the most ridiculous, sorry I can't record tonight reason that I've had thus far. And that's not to say we've had some life altering obstacles here, but I thought it was notable to bring up.
I think a more ridiculous reason is definitely JP studying for his little exam. Like, come on, dude. What's more important?
I don't think so. You don't need clean clothes. You'll be fine.
Okay.
How'd your fat ass break the dryer? What the hell'd you do?
You just stuff it with too many clothes and, it burns out. I actually don't know what happened because we had some guy come over try to fix it and it just didn't work. But that thing is running nonstop because we have like 7 people in this house.
I was gonna
And
say
then
you guys
my
are.
mom is constantly doing towels because she works out of the house and it's just, yeah, it's that I'm surprised it didn't break sooner.
It's just getting overloaded, just
It
overworked to
really
hell.
is. It really is. That dryer is the hardest worker in this house.
In any case, folks, welcome back to another episode of the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah,
I'm Christian.
And I'm JP.
and as always, we'll be talking to you about all things Buffalo Sabres hockey and even a little bit of the wider NHL and possibly giving laundromat reviews in the future. If this is a trend.
Lawson Laundromat, 5 stars.
He's bought and paid for now, folks. In any case, what's going to happen today in today's episode? Not a lot of Sabres news going on other than the World Championships being finished up this past week. So what we're going to do is, I guess this is sort of one last look back at the previous season, which we all want to move on from, obviously, for many reasons. But the reason that this is fun is first we'll be doing our final player grades, and then afterwards we get into reviewing our hot takes from way back in probably October. They were way back in October before the puck dropped on opening night, and you're in for a treat if you stick around that long, let me tell you.
And there's going to be some bad ones. I remember a couple of them. It's not going to be it's not going to be fun.
I don't remember any of mine, so I'm ready.
We were so blind, dude. I know one of them is completely ridiculous. I'm not going to say it now, but one of them is so ridiculous. I just can't even wrap my head around. Just like the overconfidence of just going into the season.
The mentality of any Sabres fan has evolved maybe just a tad. I think the optimism has faded a wee bit since last fall. So it'll be fun to hop in a time machine, but we'll get there when we get there. What we will be doing first is our final player grades. Now, we did these at the mid-season. I did keep a record of what we graded players mid-season, so it's going to be interesting to see what we agree on here, and then I'll reveal what we graded them back in. I think it was February when we did them. So We'll go over each player on the Sabres roster. Now, I did cut the games played off to 10. So the players that don't qualify past that benchmark include Matthew Savoy, Yuri Kulik. They each played 1 game. Brett Murray only played 2 games. Cal Clegg played 3 games. 5 games for Brandon Biro and 7 games for Isaac Roseanne. So we will not be grading those players. I think we actually graded Roseanne and Biro back in February. So I don't remember what, probably like a D or something. Nothing too notable. But everybody else is fair game. So that's what we'll be doing here. Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
All right. So we're going to start from, I guess we can start from the top, because this is somebody who I've had an interesting relationship with since the start of the season. I criticized him a ton back in, I guess, in the wee beginnings of the season. Rasmus Dahlin. And I should state that the way we're going to do this, the way we did this last time, I'm just going to throw a grade out there, and then we'll try to find a common consensus between us 3. Rasmus Dahlin. Very slow start to the season, I think, by his own standards, despite the fact he was leading the NHL defenseman in goal scoring for a good chunk of the season. Finishes on an absolute tear, I thought. Hits 20 goals, just misses out on 60 points. But I think relative to how I thought of him back in February or so, I thought he finished on a tear, and I thought that by the end it was the Rasmus Dahlin that you knew. So I'm gonna go with an A here.
Yeah, you make a lot of good points with the leading defenseman in goals, and just him being himself. He did have a little bit of a quiet stretch, but he did he brought it back towards the end of the season. I probably. So what's the highest grade we can give? Like an A plus? Were you doing like A plus to F?
We'll do, yeah, A plus, and B. B is like relative to expectations. That's exactly what I thought the season he had should have been.
Okay, if our benchmark is B, then I'm leaning like A minus, but considering he was leading, defenseman goals for a while, I'll go with A.
I gave him a B plus. I think he still had a very good season, but I think everybody was, I guess, a little underwhelmed, and he definitely started slow and finished on a higher note. But I came to a B plus.
So we got 2 A's and a B plus.
I'm kind of like teetering in like the A minus range. Originally, that was going to be my grade.
So we got an
But
A,
I just went with the
we got an
A.
A minus, and a B plus.
I think we know what that averages out to.
I think we do. This is just like the tough job of any NHL arbitrator, who every single contract you walk in, oh, player A wants $6 million, the team wants $4 million. What should we do? How about we give them $5 million, and then they collect their paychecks at the end of the week? A minus. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
All right, A minus for Rasmus Dahlin. Now, to put it in perspective, back in February, we agreed on a B minus. So I do think that reflects his strong end to the year. Tage Thompson. So it was a tumultuous campaign, at least, especially on the fan side of things. Just been, unfortunately, I kind of played into that at points in terms of negativity towards him. Has a good start to the year. Is putting up like Selke caliber numbers through November. Then he gets his leg cut open, comes back. Don Granato makes the brilliant decision to put him on the penalty kill in the same game. Takes a slap shot to the wrist, breaks his wrist, goes out for some time, comes back, plays with a wrist guard on. Another brilliant decision. Plays through that. And just for the longest time, it just seemed like this is not Tage Thompson. He can barely shoot the puck. His skating looks off any breakaway ability he has. And then something happened around March-ish. He started to look healthy. He finished the season on another similar tear to Rasmus Dahlin and just missed out on 30 goals, finished with 29. Amongst all the discourse around him, what I did, I put him at a B plus. So like he averaged out the negative, take into account the injuries, but also the decrease in production. I put him at a B plus.
I mean, we're taking injuries into account. Well, I guess. Well, but if B's are
Sort
if
of.
B is
I mean,
our
we're gonna
expectation,
we're gonna get to some players who have injuries follow them around like a shadow, but it'll be different for each player. It's with him. It's interesting because it's like, how do you approach him, right? Because there's this decrease in production, this huge step defensively. He's playing with injuries, but he finished the season great. But at the end of it, 56 games or 56 points, 71 games. Like, how do you grade that out?
I mean, I'll keep this one short. I mean, all of that sounds great, but at the end of the day, he didn't really meet what expectations I had for him. And I understand injuries and everything. And at the end of the day, it is still Tage Thompson, so I'd probably go with like a B minus.
I gave him a B. Looks like we're averaging
You're
out
doing it
perfect
again.
again.
Jesus.
Just averaging it out.
Okay.
I
B it
think
is.
he everybody, we said this before, everybody looks down on his season a little too much. He still finished with 29 goals, which is definitely below expectation. So it sounds like I should give him a lower grade, but considering everything that went on, I'm perfectly fine with how his season went, especially with how the team played.
B for Tage Thompson, and back in February, it was as low as a C plus.
Sounds about right.
All right, so here's the first interesting one. A truly interesting one, I think. Dylan Cozens. So to call this season underwhelming, I don't think that does it justice. And I also fan perception on him has switched on a friggin' dime. You can't even. I mean, he's playing his ass off at the World Championships, and it's people find a way to make that, put a bad spin on that. But I did wonder if I should like play into the negativity and just put it at a hard F. I think I'm too much of a softie though. I just went with a D.
I ended up giving him a C minus. I didn't put it all the way down because I don't think it was absolutely putrid, but it was a very underwhelming season for him. But I think situation really played into that. I mean, we saw how much better and worse he played with Jack Quinn hurt or healthy, and the system just did not work to his favor this year. So I think considering all of that, I'm not going to give him an awful grade, but I'm good with the C minus.
I mean, I thought it was a huge step back from I guess now it's 2 seasons ago.
If you say D plus, I'm reaching through the screen
No,
and strangling you.
No, I was gonna go with like D or D minus. I don't know if I want to go that low just because like he wasn't like a complete, well, he was pretty bad compared to what, we're used to seeing, but I wouldn't want to put him like a D minus or an F because I don't think it was like something that I see as like almost irreparable.
Like he wasn't a liability out there. Like
No, he wasn't.
If
But
you
he just
go
wasn't
down that
He
doing
wasn't
low,
doing
thing.
anything, and that's like almost worse. Like it's almost more frustrating.
It's more
He's just-
frustrating, but
he's
it's
just
not
It
worse.
felt like sometimes, he's just getting his steps in, but at the same time, I don't know. He like the one underrated thing. He became a force on the penalty kill this year, which was great to see. But that was the only time he looked like a functioning hockey player for a lot of nights. I just don't know what went wrong mentally. I mean, people point to his face getting caved in by Garrett Hathaway. I just even then I feel like it's too simplistic. It felt like he completely changed as a player, and
Yeah.
I'm not even really concerned about it. It's just more like, like what went wrong here?
I'll
It
go
doesn't feel like it should have been this bad.
I'll go D.
So settling at a D plus.
I don't think your vote has that much sway.
Yeah, it really doesn't if you think about it.
I'm fine with the D, but
D for Dylan Cozens.
yeah,
D for Dylan.
He was at a C plus, so we do have our first player that went down from the February midseason break. Alex Tuch. For me personally, this is weird because I feel like he had such like a I don't want to call it a nothing burger of a season, but it just felt like he was just quiet and steady, and yet he led the team in points.
yeah, that surprised me when I was doing my research for this. I was like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, he tied with Rasmus Dahlin, but Dahlin played 6 more games than him. It's weird to think about. He wasn't. It was a ways off from his career season last year, but at the same time, he was producing by the end of the season a lot, just like Tage Thompson. So I'm teetering between an A- and a B plus. I don't know. I need some sway on this.
I gave him a B plus. I think he did not have a flashy season by any means, but I think he was arguably our most consistent player like all year, other than maybe Peterka. Like he was very consistent. He really didn't have any hot streaks, but he didn't also have any cold streaks. I think he did about just as good as I thought, especially considering how good he did last year or 2 years ago now. I keep saying that.
It's that weird point of the off season where you don't know what to call the previous season.
It is. Everybody I talked to with him, like, oh yeah, last year. Oh, I mean, 2 years ago. Yeah, that was a good year.
What are we thinking, Christian?
I don't know, man. I need you to give me some.
Well, what was your grade for him?
Points.
Well, what was your grade? Give me some talking
points.
We just went on for 2 minutes about the guy.
Let's just put it out there. Let's put it out there. Christian has not come prepared. He's looking up at the ceiling every time. Yeah,
just twiddling my thumbs.
I debated winging it, but I was like, you know what? It's come
funny
prepared.
Because especially if you're like me and you go through the editing process, he's always the first guy to talk. Not this time. Waiting for me and JP to go first. He's like, all right.
Yeah, I thought,
They went with that grade. They went with this grade. All right, I'm going to go with the next grade, up or down, and then we'll just average it out. It'll be perfect.
I thought I'd sit back and, take a little bit of the weight off my shoulders, maybe like toss the conversation to your shoulders for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got a B plus and an A minus, so you are the deciding factor, unless you say something wild, like D.
D. We're going with D. No.
God, shit.
I don't know. He was pretty consistent. And I guess he surpassed my expectations. I'd probably put him I don't know if I'd go A minus.
It's weird. Like it doesn't feel like he had a great season, but he led the team in points. So you almost gotta. I feel like you gotta respect some of that at least. Plus, he was injured at points.
I had him at a B before I saw that he led the team in points because I thought he had a good season, just a fine season. But then I was like, oh, geez, okay, I'll move him up a little.
Considering he led the team in points, I got to give him at least in the A's. I'll give him an A minus.
All right, A minus for Alex Tuch. And he was at a B back in February, so took off the second half of the season apparently.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, this one should be fairly consensus. JJ Peterka. I had him at an A, and great breakout season, 50 points, 28 goals, fantastic. He was the guy you wanted to see take that big step, and he ended up taking that. I think there were still some parts of his game that need to be ironed out. Primarily, he's not a great power play contributor yet. And that's why, as great of a season he had, that 50-point total, it seems kind of empty given how good he's been. But like I said, he took that step you wanted to see him take, and by the end of the season, he finally found his place on the first line, which should have been on a while before. So I went with an A.
Yeah, I also had an A. I think he may have cemented himself as a top six forward for us. Not that he wasn't coming into the year, but now I think there's no question about it. And he's arguably a top line player for us. And yeah, he needs to get better on the power play, but just imagine once we actually have a functioning power play, what his numbers might actually be. So he had a great season. If you want to talk about one position player other than, a goalie who had a really good season, you'd probably talk about Peterka.
He was one of like the few bright spots on this entire team last season. Like I'm going A plus. Like he took the exact step you wanted a guy to take going into this year. You wanted that production, and then he got his opportunity on the top line, and I think he's cemented himself there. I don't think he's going to be leaving that top line anytime soon. Um, so I don't know why I wouldn't go A plus.
I think I can be talked into it. I can.
I think there's anyone else on this team that's deserving of an A plus out of this forward group.
Yeah. Oh well, the forward group. No.
Absolutely.
But
not.
I was
Forward group.
I thought Christian was going into some old habits there. But we'll get to Upi. JJ Peterka, I can be convinced. It's just like I said. It's you don't want production to sway you, but it's like, man, I look at that point total. I'm like, he should have had more points, but we saw on the ice he was he was their best forward from start to finish, aside from Middlestat. So, JP, if you want to go up to an A plus, I think I can get talked into it.
I honestly don't think I could get up to an A plus.
Really?
He had a great season. An A plus for me is like you just shocked the world, and I don't think he completely shocked the world.
I mean, like, I understand we don't want to just be handing out A pluses, but like when I think of the rest of the roster, I don't really see anyone else I'm going to give an A plus to out of the skating group.
It's up to you, Jonah. I don't think I could go up.
Am I a glass half full or glass half empty kind of guy here? This is tough.
I think we already know the answer to that question.
A minus. Or A minus. We're going A.
All right.
Ooh.
Sorry, folks.
Glass half empty.
He was at an A plus back in February, by the way. So I guess that does make it sting.
What are we talking about? I'm the only one consistent. You guys did your homework. I'm the only one that's consistent right now.
Moving on. Mattias Samuelsson. So this is the player that I think it's not fair, but at the same time, it's become a trend. He can't stay healthy.
It's completely fair.
And I think just given, and it's like even when he played, like he looked good. He put up good results. He, whenever him and Dahlin were together, you kind of rolled your eyes a bit. But once that finally got broken up, and there was that time he spent with Connor Clifton, and it looked pretty solid as a third pair. It's like, man, those injuries just, it's frustrating because you can't. It's a common occurrence. So I went with a C here.
Yeah, I was thinking about C minus. Yeah, he just can't stay healthy. And when he's on the ice, don't get me wrong, he's a good defensive presence for us. I think over the course of the season, we've kind of come to figure out he's probably more of a guy who's going to bolster the bottom pair going forward if he's going to be on this roster. But in the limited minutes that we saw him before he got put on LTIR for the rest of the year, which just seems like it's just a broken record at this point.
I wonder if he's still on. I wonder if they still
I think
got him
he
on
is. There. I think he is, but
they got him locked in for next season. They know he's going to fall off. He's going to fall down the stairs during the summer or something.
The trend has worn old.
He is still on there.
Yeah.
He's going to fall off his bike at training camp.
Jonah
knows that.
It's a good old Chris Sale reference.
Yep.
The trend
Anyways,
has
back to
worn
the Sabres.
old. It's worn old, and I'm sure it has on the rest of the fan base. People out there listening could definitely agree. So
It's a trend. He's played
I'm
2
not giving.
years. That's how injured he's been.
Right, there's the
Yeah.
It's
trend.
like, oh,
but
here we
still,
are, year after year. It's like, no, he made his debut 2 years ago.
Yeah, still, I've run out of empathy. Obviously I don't want to see him injured, and I hope he gets healthy. But I've run out of excuses to make to be like, oh, he's important. He is important, but I can't see myself putting him above a C minus for this year.
I gave him a D for disappointing. I mean, it's just extremely disappointing. I mean, you guys have said everything. It's the fact that he's
harsh.
1 or 2 years into his contract, and half of Sabres Twitter, including us at times, have talked about trading him already, which I personally think is ridiculous, but it is a conversation, and I think deservedly so. So I really like him as a player, but he needs to stay healthy. I don't know if he has to change his game up or what he has to do, but it's just he can't continue on like this.
Just wrap him in bubble wrap and just pray.
Do something.
So we got a C, we got a C minus, and we got a D. I don't know how we average this out.
I can move up to a C minus. I can agree on that, but
C minus.
That's
C minus for Mattias.
Now I'm thinking D plus.
I was just gonna say.
We're back to the pessimist. Yeah, now look who's the
I
pessimist.
I think I'll move up to a D plus. I don't think I can move up to a C minus. I can't in my right mind give him a C.
I like the D for disappointing, so I'll move down to a D plus.
D plus.
If you want to look at it a little more, going into the season, he was our top pair guy.
Yeah.
Now he's what? A bottom 2 pair guy? Like he's not even being considered.
But that's not his fault. That was more the fan base, gassing him up.
Well, true, but
he was solid, but
2 years ago, he was very good with Dahlin and Sammy. This year they were not good together. So he's not. I don't think he's a top pair. Well, he's not a top pair guy anymore, but that's another way to look at it.
This fan base loves gassing up mid players.
Moving on to our next defenseman, Owen Power. Obviously, he is. I don't know what term to put on him. We'll just say divisive, depending on how you look at his play style.
He gets too much hate.
This season, pretty much putting up the same exact point total as last season. Defensive impacts were up. Offensive impacts were a little down, which kind of was the story for the entire team. I just put him at a B. I think he was just around where, the sophomore slump, it's kind of a myth, but at the same time, it happens a ton. He didn't really suffer from that. He just kind of had, he was all right. He didn't take that big step, but he took a step in some areas, took a step back in others, and just kind of averaged out to a similar caliber of season as he did his rookie season.
It's also what I had. He had a good season. He didn't take a big step forward, but he also didn't take any steps back. So I think B's the most perfect grade for any player on this team for Power.
Yeah, he didn't do anything he didn't have a stretch of the season where it was like, oh my God, this guy needs to take a seat in the press box.
I don't know. Some people were advocating for it.
No, dude.
They don't need to be named, but they were advocating for it.
They were, but all I'm going to say is people don't understand how good Owen Power actually is and how important he is to the team. He does a lot of things that you don't really see, but he just plays the game so well and has such a presence about him that it just, makes it that much difficult for the other team. But yeah, considering how the season went, and he put up points. He didn't put up like a ton or anything, but it wasn't also anything to make me worry about his production going into next year. I'd give him a B too.
And I do think he kind of found a scoring touch towards the end of the season, so hopefully he could build on that.
He might be developing a shot here, which would be very nice.
That'd be a beautiful way to round out his game.
And here's, before we get off of him, interesting stat here. He had a higher WAR than last season, if you're going off Evolving Hockey.
Really? By how
We
much?
I don't know the difference. It might have been slight. I can look at it right now. Let me pull up Evolving Hockey, but I'm fairly certain that actual WAR that he was statistically higher than last season.
Was his defense just that much better?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a Tage situation. I mean, it was the same thing with Tage Thompson. He was at close to the same WAR as he did in his breakout season. So Power in his rookie season had a WAR of 1.6. If you're going off Evolving Hockey, this year was 1.8.
Little
So
uptick. Little
little
uptick.
little uptick. He was basically the same caliber of player, just excelled at different things. So we are in agreement on a B.
Yes.
All right, Jeff Skinner. I think it's interesting because if I'll say the grade now, back in February we had him at an A minus,
Ooh,
and I think
it's gonna
things
see a big
shift.
drop.
They shifted. It had to be right after.
Yep.
All of a sudden, the narrative just turned on the guy, and now you've had this summer talk of buying him out, and it's not going to happen. But just trying to
No.
get out. But it's the first time people are talking about ways to get out of the contract.
You want to talk about a guy who gets too much hate? I know we just mentioned Owen Power. Jeff Skinner's another one.
Well,
He really is.
I think
I'm not about
I
it.
think it's fair.
He does have the contract.
Look, the guy can't play defense or just doesn't want to. He's just not interested. Which, you know what? I think is fine with. I don't have any interest in playing defense for beer league, as you guys know. But Jeff Skinner doesn't have. He didn't have the offensive season where you could just throw away his defensive impacts. His defensive impacts are not good. And when he's not producing at an elite level, you're going to get kind of worried. Now, we don't need to make this into a buyout conversation. This is just, we're talking about his grade. I went with a B minus.
I originally had him at a C coming into this, but I think we all do forget that he did have a pretty good first half of the season. I mean, I honestly
He was
completely
good. Yeah, he was.
yeah,
He was real good.
completely forgot until you just said that we gave him an A minus. So I will bump it up to a C plus, and I can hear a B minus, but I think C plus is fair considering how much he dropped off. I mean, he was our first line player, and now he's a third line player. So
Yeah, I won't deny there was a bit of a drop off towards the end of the year, so that kind of does swing my letter grade a little bit. Um, I am kind of in the B minus territory, but um, I've stated before on this show that this team should not buy out Jeff Skinner. There's a lot of people out there reporting that they should get rid of him now. They should buy him out. He doesn't play the game the right way, but people forget he's our best goal scorer at 5v5. He brings a certain offensive presence to the team that, you can't really just find in free agency sometimes. I mean, you could, but you're taking a chance. And if you wanted to buy him out, let's see how next season goes, and we'll go from there. Because, the money situation will be a lot more favorable to the team. And I really don't think I know people think Kevin Adams is going to make a lot of moves, but Jeff Skinner will still have a place on this roster next season when it's all said and done. So I will probably go with a B minus as well. I wish he had a better end of the season, but with it being not as good, I don't think I could give him a B. I'm close to a B, but it's not my expectation for him. So I'll go B minus.
B minus.
I guess.
All right, B minus for Jeff Skinner. All right, moving on here. Zach Benson. I think I remember the last time we did this. I had a little bit of contention. I think it was from Christian because I put him at a B plus, and it's like if you go back to October, you're like, okay, this guy's 18. He's basically a nightly player in the lineup. How can you only put him at a B plus? And I think I don't know. My justification was, look, he's good. He's a replacement level NHL player, and that as an 18-year-old is very, very good. But his points haven't come yet. But you still he's like Zach Benson. this whole season. I legit do not think there was one game where I'm like, you got to get him off the ice. He's just not seeing it tonight. I don't think he had a single game like that.
Yeah.
And Rasmus Dahlin had games like that as an 18-year-old, and I remember that. Zach Benson, not once, I don't think looked out of place. And I think by the end of the season, that line of him, Cozens, and Quinn was, they were doing pretty well, especially the last few games. And he got his spot back on the first power play unit, which he got taken off after a great preseason. Never got back on. And then eventually, like I said, found his place back on there by the end. So I'm willing to bump him up to an A-.
That's what I had him at. Great season. He finished the season pretty hot too. I just saw a stat on that. I forget what it was, but I know we finished hot. So I think an A- is a good spot for him.
Yeah, you think how crazy it is that like everyone in the draft, like every Sabres fan was screaming at their TV draft night last year because he somehow fell to us, and we
It
were
was
like,
JP.
"Oh my god,
JP was everybody.
this
Yeah,
is
that was me.
this is the best pick." And I still didn't like. I thought it was gonna be like a Matt Savoy type of deal, like you just send him through the minors. He immediately made the team, and you're right on a nightly basis. He hasn't looked out of place at all. Like I haven't seen any. I can't think of any plays where I would just be like looking at and be like, oh man, that you got to have that one, or you got to back check. He played well. Like you're right, the points aren't there, but he definitely exceeded my expectation. So I can go A- as well.
Not only was he put on the power play towards the end of the year, he was on our penalty kill as an 18-year-old too. So he's just a great, well-rounded game.
Yeah, look, there's limitations in his game, and you still like that's what you saw at points. He doesn't have a great shot yet. He's an 18-year-old kid. He's going to get out-muscled at points, and he hasn't popped offensively, as we've said. But like other than that, he just never looked out of place. He played like someone who's already been in the league for a few years. So I'm excited to see what rookie Zach Benson or sophomore Zach Benson's going to look like.
Yeah, he looked like a guy who is a very sustainable middle six player. Just didn't get many points, but again, he's young. That'll come.
Did we settle on a grade? Was it A-?
A-.
All right, A- for Zach Benson. Peyton Krebs. This one hurts a bit. This one hurts a little bit.
This hurts me.
He was a B- back in February, and I don't know if that was before he got the bump to that line with Peterka and Benson and he was playing well, or if it was after. I don't recall, but in any case, he was in Granato's doghouse for a large part of the season, got his shot, and then seemingly got his shot taken away, which was very frustrating. But then Casey Middlestat was traded, and he got his shot back, and him and Jeff Skinner just did not work as a duo whatsoever. And he just wasn't very good through the end of the season. And now third line center you're heading into the summer, and third line center is a need.
You're looking for his replacement.
Yeah, arguably the biggest need.
So it's frustrating. I went with a C.
I would probably go C-. I hate to just like pile on him, but one of our big talking points for why we were sticking up for him so much was because, he's getting buried on the fourth line with Girgensons and Oposo, two offensive black holes. So when he got his shot and he just didn't seem to run with, and you know what, maybe it was the kind of, I could defend him a little bit. Maybe it was the guys he was playing with. Maybe Jeff Skinner doesn't really suit his skill set. Even though Krebs is more of like a pass first player and Jeff Skinner is he's like a play driving. Well, he's not a play driving winger. He's more of a scoring type winger. So you'd think that combo would work, but who knows? Maybe
it would work. It did not.
It
looked terrible.
It didn't.
They both play their worst hockey of the season together.
Yeah, it could have been either one of them, or it could have been both. But after he got his shot and he didn't run with it, it's just there's not much else to say after that. So I'd probably go. I don't want to give him like in the D's. I'll give him a C-.
I was gonna give him a C minus, but then I think that's a little too harsh. I ended up giving him a C. Um, I'll give him one more chance to see if he could, maybe his offensive abilities will finally, you know, come out in his play a little more. I'll give him one more shot because we've been big defenders of him, and it's backfired on us.
So we got 2 C's and a C minus. Are we going with C?
I guess. Yeah. That's the
Okay.
the
It wasn't a
polling
question.
average,
I was
so-
gonna go with C.
Okay.
I was hoping you would just say yes, of course, guys. I'll bump it up just for you. C for Peyton Krebs. Henri Jokiharju. Back in February, he was a B plus. I think by the end of the season, for me personally, he kind of wore out his welcome just a little bit. I bumped him down to a C plus.
It wasn't noticeable enough. I'll tell you what, though, I give him credit. He's one of the only guys I see on the blue line who's just like, as soon as he gets that puck, he just wants to shoot it as hard as he can at the net.
It's the Colin Miller mentorship.
He is, yes. Thank you, Colin Miller. But based on, Kevin Adams' end of season press conference, it seems like they're looking for his replacement. And throughout the course of the season, I wouldn't say he was awful, but again, I don't think he did enough to impress enough people to have him stick around. I don't know if they'll tender his RFA status.
It's an expensive qualifying offer.
Is.
That's the thing. He's due for a raise, and it's not
Yeah.
a Tyson Jost situation where you can just drop him to free agency and then sign him back for cheaper. He's got enough of a pedigree where
Someone will pick him up.
You either give him a raise or he'll find another team.
Yeah, I don't think he's due for a raise. So I feel like we kind of danced around. Just let's go into what his overall play was. Like, how many points,
yeah.
Jonah? How many points did he have?
He finished the season with 3 goals, 17 assists, 20 points in 74 games.
Okay.
He's not a power play guy, and he's not even a penalty kill guy, really. I mean, he might have gotten some at the end of the season after they traded Johnson, but he's never been a special team. He's kind of like, he's a decent player, but he's young and he's right-handed, and he plays with important players. Like, he's gotten a ton of ice time with Owen Power, and he's gotten a ton of ice time with Rasmus Dahlin. So like, I think he can command money if he wanted to. But we can get away from the contract situation. In terms of actual play, where are we at? Like I said, I'm at C plus.
This is another Skinner situation for me, where I guess I kind of forgot that he had a decent first half of the season. So I had a C. I'll move up to a C plus. Sorry to cut you off, Christian. I'll give him a C plus.
He's not sorry.
No, yeah, I know he's not sorry, and I know you purposely wanted to cut me off anyway. So, I was just gonna say, it's like he seems like one of the biggest wild cards on the team just because he's been around so long, and you don't know if getting rid of him could do more damage than good. Because, as you said, he plays with important guys. He's pulling weight, but has he done enough to impress me this past season to give him that pay raise? I'm going to go with no. And just based on that, I can't give him a grade above a B. So I'm probably just going to go, would you say C plus?
Yep.
I will go with a C plus then.
All right, C plus for Jokiharju. Jordan Greenway. Now this is really unfortunate because I feel like if the wider consensus, people would be sort of down on him, and I just feel like that's because Granato shoved him down our throats this season. And I feel like if you just take a step back and just look at the season he had, 10 goals, 28 points, it's a pretty decent season. He was great on the penalty kill. Got a little bit too much power play time and top 6 time for that matter. But
Are you talking about first line center Jordan Greenway?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. In any case, yes, he got a little bit of center time too.
He was on the first line.
he got time on the first line as well. I gave him a B. I think when given where I thought he was going to be going into the season, I thought he's just around where I thought he'd be.
Yeah, nothing's changed in my opinion on him. I'll give him a B. He's a great penalty killer. He had one of his better offensive years in his career. And honestly, about exactly what I expected. The only reason people are down on him is because of how he was used, and that's not his fault.
He plays that important fourth line role. He's forechecking forward, and he
plays that
great
fourth line role on the top line.
Yeah, he's a real on the top line. What were we doing? But yeah, he was a great addition to the penalty kill. That needed a huge facelift after the season beforehand, and I thought he brought a lot to that. I wasn't expecting him to score a lot of goals or get a lot of points. I was just expecting him to, when he's on the ice and his so-called fourth line when he'd play on it was on the ice, that we wouldn't get scored on. And I didn't really see too much of that because he did get shuffled around the lineup a lot, but hopefully next season we see more of that. I thought he was perfectly average, so I'll go with a B.
Before we get off of him, I just want you guys to guess how many forwards averaged more ice time than Jordan Greenway this season
in the league
on the Sabres.
This seems like a trick question.
I'm just asking.
I'm gonna say 3.
You said
no one specifically in mind. I'm gonna say 3.
You said forwards.
Forwards, because defensemen, I think every single one of them averaged more.
I'm going to say, I think Alex Tuch had a ton of ice time. I'm going to say 1.
JP is correct. It is 3. Can you name the 3?
Was one of them Alex Tuch?
Alex Tuch was 1.
Okay. I feel a little bit better. I don't think it's Jeff Skinner.
I think Cozens.
Nope.
Really?
Greenway beat him out by 1 second, but he did average more.
Is one of them Kyle Oposo?
No, God, no. Jeez, this would have been a Kyle Oposo question if it was.
This is average on night, not total.
Average on the season.
Oh, okay.
Tage Thompson.
Yeah,
Tage Thompson's 1. There's one other.
Peterka.
Peterka's not 1.
Benson.
Jeff Skin.
He doesn't play for the team anymore.
Oh, Casey Middlestat.
Yeah. The only forwards that played more on average: Casey Middlestat, Tage Thompson, and Alex Tuch. That's kind of that. I can't get mad at it because he's a big special teams guy, but it's still funny to look at. You just go down the list. Oh, Cozens is lower, Peterka's lower, Skinner's lower, Quinn's lower.
I mean, I think
then
that might mean...
you got Peyton Krebs way down the list.
I think that might mean that Jordan Greenway is due for a pay raise.
B for Jordan Greenway. Victor Olofsson. This was the swan song for him. His last hurrah as a Buffalo Sabre. I just went with a D. He wasn't terrible when he played, but he just didn't do much this season, if we're being honest.
My king, Victor Olofsson. What went wrong? Well, we know what went wrong. It's been going wrong for a long time now. When he's on, man, it's electric to watch, but
when was the last time he was on?
If we're grading Victor Olofsson based on games and blowouts, that, on the other hand,
that's an A+.
That might be an interesting conversation to have.
No, but he had a tough year, and I'm rooting for the guy. I really am. 7th round pick. The odds are just stacked against you right off the bat. But yeah, I can't give him above a D. He just didn't do anything. He wasn't good defensively. His shot wasn't there, and that's the biggest part of his game, arguably the only part of his game. And he didn't do much on the power play when he had his opportunities. Free agent. Good luck out there, Vic. I'll give you a D.
Can't believe I'm going to be the most positive for Olofsson. I gave him a C minus. I don't think he wasn't put in a position to succeed. Not saying, oh my god, I'm not saying he
For our
should have been
listeners
put.
out there, sorry to cut you off, JP,
No,
but
you're
for our
good.
listeners out there, Christian did just grab his vintage '68 royal blue Olofsson jersey out of the closet one last
That's what
time.
did it. That's what did it. He changed his number.
Yep. But
Yep.
as I was saying, I don't think he shouldn't have been put in a position to succeed. Like meaning he shouldn't have been one of our top players. But with the player he is, he needs to be surrounded by talent, and he just wasn't all year. So I think wasn't completely his fault. And I was actually surprised that he had 15 points this year because I thought he actually had less than that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him a C minus just because he was put in probably the worst position he had ever been in his career.
2 Ds and a C minus. I think we have our answer here. D for Victor Olofsson.
God damn it, man. Like, I have such terrible luck with buying jerseys. Like, I get the Olofsson jersey. Like, this is right when the Royal Blues dropped. So he was still
Can you buy
up
a
there.
Connor Clifton jersey, please?
Oh
Take
my
one for
God.
the
No,
team
I'm
here.
I'm getting a JJ Peterka jersey.
Oh God. Well,
No, but I buy this at the height of COVID, but like right when the Royal Blue drops, and he's on the top line with Jack Eichel, and he's lighting it up. He's so good. So I bought this at the right time. Okay, I didn't buy this like thinking, oh, he's
I don't
gonna
think you did. If you
suck.
if you compared prices between a Victor Olofsson jersey today and back then, I
But
think there would be a
68,
disparity.
a 68
True.
Victor Olofsson jersey.
I think you could buy. Listen, I think you could buy a 71 Victor Olofsson jersey full price. Pay the money to have 71 taken off. Pay the money to put 68 on, and you would still have more money left over compared to when you bought the 68 jersey back in 2020. That's just my guess.
I'm not going off of
I
if I
know
made
it-
a profit on this jersey or not.
I know inflation has been a killer, but I mean, come on. Let's not beat around the bush here.
But-
You made a bad financial decision.
No, okay, this was good, and I will die on this hill. But the only thing is, it's like I get a goat head jersey, and it's Jeff Skinner, and the season after I get it, now we're talking about buying him out. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So what? I'm gonna get a Peterka jersey, and what
Pick
happens?
someone you
next?
hate. You know what? If you
Get a
want to
blank one.
if you want to get rid of the guy, get a Luukkonen jersey. That's how you'll know.
Yeah, and then make our team that much worse. Thanks,
I
Christian. Thank you.
Can't get a Luukkonen jersey. I don't curse this team with the jerseys I buy. I swear.
Well, why don't we talk about the big fella, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? I'm not even going to give the guy an introduction. This is an A+.
Yep.
I wanted this guy waived at the start of the year.
I wanted him waived in the middle of the year.
Christian
Still
did-
wants him waived now.
Christian held on to his take a little too far into the season.
Christian's
but
going to be biting his tongue when the arbitration numbers come out and he sees Ukko-Pekka
Oh.
Luukkonen asking for $7.5 million a year.
He was god awful to start the year.
He had
He
like
was
one or
not-
two bad games. Okay, and we all dumped
Not
on him
god
because we
awful.
thought it was a trend.
Yes. Correct.
He was bad for a few games, and then he became. Obviously, we saw what happened.
Right, yeah. He turned it around. Okay, I can't deny that he was a fantastic goalie this season, so I will give him an A+. Is that what you wanted to hear?
That's character growth right there.
Okay.
That sounded spiteful though.
I'm trying to spite you guys.
A+ for Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Why don't we get to the other goalies? We'll start with Eric Comrie. Unfortunately, the season did not go the way he would have hoped. To say the team had no confidence in him, that would be an understatement. I think he played one game in the last 2 months of the season, or 2 games in the last month. Finished on I'm glad he got that last win of the season. Finished on a high note. Good bookend to his Sabres career. I don't think they're going to bring him back. He started off the season well. Then he got that no contact injury against New Jersey, and then he wasn't really reliable for the team, and then they just stopped playing the guy. I went with a D here.
Yeah. I mean, we expected this guy to be our number two to Luukkonen or Levi this season because of his veteran presence, and we saw him as more of like a stabilizing goaltender, someone who could come in and maybe right the ship a little bit. Maybe if the number one is in some hot water, but you saw pretty early on after he got injured that Levi was completely able to step into that role, and Luukkonen took off, and Eric Comrie was left on Earth. And with that, I, yeah, D minus. Just he wasn't around. He was just a ghost. He was like he was like the ghost of Christmas. I mean, the goalie of Christmas past.
Yeah, I gave him a D. I thought they put him in a really shitty position the whole year, barely playing him just sitting on the bench the whole time. So I did feel a little bad for him, but he didn't really earn anything. So go with the
No.
D.
2Ds, D minus. Looks like we're going to settle on a D for Eric Comrie. Devon Levi. See, now this one's interesting because depending on how you viewed him coming into the season, this can be a wide range of things. If you're of the belief of the Sabres organization and you expected him to come in and start 50 games for the team and lead them to the promised land, that was a bit disappointing. Now, I feel like if you were on the more pessimistic side of things and you're like, this guy's 21 years old, he's not going to start 50 games for your team, you would have been proven right, and relative to expectations, you would have been right on. I went with a B minus here. I think, and this doesn't, and it's really, I'm not taking really into account the Rochester, his stints in Rochester where he was a monster, especially in the playoffs. So solely Sabres hockey. So I think he was, if you take a step back, he was about a backup caliber goaltender. If you take his age and everything out of the equation. I could go up to a B and be like, yeah, that's about where I expected him, but I settled on a B minus because, he had his rookie ups and downs, which I think, if you had a realistic point of view, was to be expected.
I I had to throw out my preseason expectations, or I probably would have given him a really bad grade because I was delusional. So I think
Christian might have been worse if we're going off the hot takes, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. I was
Hot takes for a reason. They're not right takes.
I'm ignoring my expectations coming into this season. I'm gonna go with the B. I think he started off pretty slow, but after that, I mean, he was a very good goalie. Like, he was very good for us.
His second stint was considerably better.
Yeah. So I think I don't know. B it just sits well in my mind. I think he didn't really like amaze anybody, but when he did play, I mean, he did his job.
I agree with you, JP. I thought he was perfectly average as a goaltender. But I will say I also have to feed into the delusion we did have as to where we thought he was going to be this season. I have to at least put some sort of weight on that. So if we're doing that, I'm going to go with B minus. Consistent goaltender. Did not have any really god awful games, but if we kind of stack it up as to where we thought he was going to be at the beginning of the year, possibly the number one goalie, because we had no idea what was going to happen with Luukkonen. I'll just slightly under B, just a B minus.
I think I'm gonna bump mine up, and that's only because the last time we did these, he was at a B minus. So I kind of want to show some progression here, that he did play better. So I'm feeling optimistic for this one.
He's fudging the numbers, folks.
Yeah, well, whatever. I edit the show.
Look,
we're going to a B.
I just want to point out, I was pulling up my stats because I do remember he had a very good goal saved above expected. He finished 15th in the league in the regular season. He was above UPL. Now, I'm not take that with a grain of salt, because
he was He was not above UPL.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It sounds crazy. Per money puck.
Is this like a per 60 stat?
No. Goals saved above expected. Look it up. Money puck. He's got 10.7. UPL is 9.4. So that's also in the back of my mind. He did play very good while he was with us. I do think that is a little extreme. Like, he was not better than UPL, but stats don't lie sometimes.
Money puck is great. It's a great free tool.
Actually, you want goals saved above expected per 60? He's 0.496. UPL was 0.183.
That's just ridiculous. I don't know how they're getting those numbers.
I'm not saying I completely agree with them, but I did remember seeing that. So,
yeah, Evolving Hockey has Luukkonen at 22.46. They got Levi at 7.92. So both good. There's a bit of a disparity there between models.
There's
I don't know what happened. I don't know if Money Puck forgot to carry the one. I trust Evolving Hockey a bit more. So we going with a B then.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right, Bowen Byram. So here's a guy who came in, guns blazing, first 4 or 5 games. He's playing pretty out of his mind hockey, up tempo, fast pace. Him and Dahlin are gelling. And the team goes out west. He starts practicing more with the team. And you saw a little bit of a dip. And then he got thrown with Henri Jokiharju. And I think it might have been one of the worst combinations I've seen in some time for this team. And I've watched an Ilya Lyubushkin and Jacob Bryson 2022-2023 pair. I've seen my fair share of bad pairs. Byram and Jokiharju it was not good. So I went with a B-. And I even that, I feel like it's kind of being kind to his time with Jokiharju, but I'm putting my stock in his hot start, and I'm just going to throw in the Granado, the multiplier.
Yeah, he became a victim of the Granado effect, as in we got him and he looked like he was still playing like his old Colorado stuff, and we were like, wow, this is great. And then he was, get ready to learn Don Granado, buddy. And he did really quick. And then he learned Henri Jokiharju.
The first video session they're doing, it's like, Bowen, you're going below the hash marks here. We don't do that.
No.
We don't do that.
You see all this moving going on the power play? We don't do that here, okay? There's no such thing as a bumper. But yeah, like the grade, it was such a short amount of time. You didn't really get to see him too often. So I can't really lean too, even if he had like a great end of the season, which obviously he didn't. And if he had a terrible end of the season, I don't think I could swing too far the other way. I probably would hover around what our benchmark is. I'll give him a B. I'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, but I'll go B.
I give him B-. It's crazy thing to hear that once he starts practicing with the team, he gets worse. So I'm really not putting
because you say it, and I feel like it's been a joke that's sort of used. Any player that gets traded here, it's like, well, he got used to the team. That might have been the case for Bowen Byram.
That's what I'm saying. Like his how he played. Like I'm not really blaming it on him like much. Like I think if we let him play his game next year, I think he's gonna be very good. So I can't give him too bad of a grade. I'm going B-.
I'm just the odd man out every time now.
He showed his flashes too, and I think that's something that you definitely want to see.
Well, I think it's important, and I think it's important to learn the lesson with his time at Jokiharju. Look, those are two guys, at least for right now with Byram, he's a complementary player. I don't think he's at the stage now. He could get there, but I don't know if he can drive his own pair yet. And if you want him to, you need someone better than Jokiharju. So I think going into next season, you got to put him with 26 or 25.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. good old friend Connor Clifton. I'm not going to mince words. I'm not a fan of the player, or at least how he played this season. I'll say this honestly. I'm sure I drove the conversation. I gave him a D- back in February. By the end of the season, he had settled into a third pair role, which is just what I think he is. And he did better. I'm going to give him a C+.
C+. Wow. I'm
Yeah.
very surprised by that. I gave him a C-.
It's character development.
Yeah, you're right.
There.
That was probably a typo. C-.
His input. Yeah, back in the beginning of the season, no good. That's all I'm gonna say. No good. But yeah, he settled in. He still had his hiccups, but he settled in. He's not worth the money we're paying him.
If we did like a quarter season grade, I think I would have given him a score lower than an F. I would have found a way.
Yeah.
For if we checked in November.
Let's also put it this way. Once he got away from Erik Johnson, I think he was better.
Oh God, that's a guy you could just give an F triple minus to. And Erik Johnson, we don't even have to talk about him. F triple minus. I'll give Connor Clifton a C minus.
C-, we in agreement?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Jacob Bryson. Fairly good season by his standards. He was playing super well in March. And I think by the end he kind of fell back to the mean. But it was a decent campaign. I went with a B+. I think given his state with the fan base heading into the season, I think by the end of it, I don't think people are too against the idea of bringing him back as a possible 7th guy.
Yeah, I hate to talk first because I know we're talking about JP's favorite player here, but if I gave him a benchmark, I mean, after Samuelsson got hurt, he stepped into that middle pairing role and he didn't disappoint. I thought he played.
Goal.
Yeah, he played well. So I'm right there with you. I'll give him a B+.
I also gave him a B+. With that being said, I'm not saying that I don't think we need to bring him back. I think
I'm not saying
something else.
I'm not saying they need to. I'm just saying if it happened, it's better than signing Tyler Myers for 3 years.
Well, not to some people, but yeah, I agree.
B+ for Jacob Bryson. Rounding out the defenseman here, Ryan Johnson. Now, this is an unfortunate one, I think, because way back in February, we gave him a B. And I think by the end of things, he slowly lost his place in the lineup. And I know I said I wasn't taking the Rochester stints into account, but he did have a rough Rochester playoff, which I think reflected how he was by the end of his time with the Sabres. I gave him a C+.
I'm leaning more towards a C.
We're close on all of these, but
says the guy who didn't bring pre-prepared scores.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Like, guys, it's like we're right on the money here.
Man, we're just, we're in sync like that. Considering he did lose his place in the lineup, and coming into this, he started the season on the roster, right?
I think he didn't. And then I think by like early November he was up.
Yeah, he was just up and down a lot.
Well, he had a great start. There was those games with Dahlin.
He was awesome.
And then
he's one of our best defensemen at handling the puck. Like you see him, how quick he moves. He's got so much great potential. I'll stick with a C+.
All right, C+ for Ryan Johnson. All right. Zemgus Girgensons. I think he had a very Zemgus Girgensons season.
That's a good way of putting it.
I'll just go right into it. I gave him a C+.
Just give him a C.
I think, and I say he had another Girgensons type season. Even by his own standards, I think it was a bit muted, at least compared to last year.
Yeah, I gave him a C. I thought, compared to what I expected for him, I thought he had a down year.
C it is. All right, I'm going to group these last two together because we have been going for a little while. Lukas Rousek and Tyson Jost. I gave them both Ds.
Yep.
I think Rousek
agree.
especially, it's disappointing. Look, he's going to be making NHL money this season. He's got a one-way deal. I don't think they anticipated him to have, 15 games played this season? He played 15 games. I think they anticipated a little bit more.
You are forgetting about one player,
Am I?
Eric Robinson.
Oh, no. He was in here. I guess I just skipped over him. My fault. Eric Robinson. I gave him a C+.
As did I.
C+ it is.
All right, so that's going to wrap up our player grades. That went a while. Moving on to the hot takes. The fun part of this. The fun part, we get to make fun of ourselves for how stupid we look. Some of us more than others. So back in October, there were two methods that we did this. So we did our hot takes here on the podcast before opening night. And then, if anybody remembers, we did a little predictions roundtable in written form on BuffaloSportsTalk.com. So, not all of those hot takes where there wasn't a lot of crossover. There was quite a wide range of opinions, predictions. We'll start with the Stanley Cup picks, and this was via the podcast. So I'm going to start out with, I guess I'll start out with the war. None of us had bad picks, surprisingly, for the most part. Christian picked the New Jersey Devils to win the Stanley Cup.
Oh,
But,
damn.
But you had them beating the Dallas Stars in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay.
JP had the Dallas Stars winning the Stanley Cup against the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oof.
Now, I know they got close, but I'm going to dump on you. Dumb pick. Very bad pick. Could have seen that coming. Could have seen that second round exit coming from a mile away.
You just hate them so much.
And I also had the New Jersey Devils as Stanley Cup finalists, but I did have the Edmonton Oilers winning the Stanley Cup. So you know what? Round of applause, guys. Round of applause. Not a bad start.
Each of us still have one team alive.
How much worse can it get from here? Let's get into it.
Don't
Starting
answer that
things
question.
Off, our Atlantic predictions via the podcast. Every single one of us took Toronto.
Really?
And they finished in third.
Well, I mean, the Atlantic, it gets to be a crapshoot sometimes towards the top. It gets so close. It could have gone anyway. A couple games here and there, that could have been completely different.
Yep. All right. So we'll start. We'll go after JP first. JP predicted that Rasmus Dahlin would not only be a Norris finalist, he would hit 90 points.
Oof.
He was 31 short.
Hey, you know what? I'll double down next year. That doesn't scare me.
Oh no! Don't
no.
Clip that. Chat, clip that.
So that's a gambler's response.
Yeah, it is.
Christian, sorry, buddy, you're next.
I already know what's coming.
You said Tage Thompson would hit 60 goals.
Yeah, I remember.
He also finished 31 short.
I didn't even hit oh man, what a terrible. Just think back to last summer, how happy we were, how much confidence we had going into the season,
so
where he could
naive.
just say something like that. I didn't expect him to hit 60 goals, but I thought he'd get close enough to where it wasn't a terrible take.
You couldn't even round up.
No.
You couldn't even. All right, this one's for me. I predicted Jordan Greenway could hit 20 goals. He was 10 short.
That might be the worst of them all.
The worst of them all?
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst
60 goals. The guy hasn't hit 50.
But if you
Tage had 40, 47?
The last time that a Sabre hit 60 goals, there were like 20 teams in the NHL.
It was Pat LaFontaine or Mogilny.
Mogilny.
Yeah.
You're playing against janitors.
Oh my god!
Ooh, how many goals did Jordan Greenway have?
He had 10.
He had 10.
Granado wanted him to get 20. Let's put it that way. So Jonah was on the right track.
I was going to say, yeah.
And there's a reason he doesn't have his job anymore.
It's not like, I could at least defend you two and be like, oh, the power play stunk. No, Greenway got the usage he would have needed.
Mm-hmm.
Eh.
All right, next one is also from me. I said that Devon Levi could, I'm going to put emphasis on could, he could dethrone Connor Bedard for the Calder.
I remember that one.
He just didn't get enough games.
He didn't play good enough.
Yeah, he played pretty
I don't think it was a
average.
bad
Once
take.
UPL took the reins, he wasn't getting much time.
I don't think that was a bad take. That's going to be my Donnie Granado one. I already know that one's coming up.
Oh God.
Yeah, it is coming. Speaking of, it's literally the next one.
Yeah.
If the Sabres make the playoffs, Granado is a lock for the Jack Adams.
Did they make
And
the
we
playoffs?
didn't make the playoffs.
But here's the thing, though. They could have. He would not have gotten. I don't think he would have gotten any votes.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
All right, so this is the first one. Well, the first solo one that wasn't that bad, but it was also bad. I said Victor Olofsson would stay on the team the entire season. I also said he could possibly hit 30 goals.
Oh,
That
that second one is awful.
He was only 25
Yeah,
short.
he had like 28 last year, Plus with the Jack Quinn injury, there was some logic behind it.
How many goals did Vic end up with?
8.
It could, yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't have been. Yeah, that's bad.
All right. JP, you're up. You said Casey Middlestat would hit 70 to 75 points.
How many points did he finish with this season?
57.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't even hit 60.
I'm surprised by that.
You know what? It's sort of crazy to think about. This was his year. He had more points last season. 2 seasons ago. God damn it, I hate this point of the offseason.
That actually is crazy.
Do we? Because I'm looking at the next few, and I'm going to hold the next 2 off because these next 3, they're pretty good. Pretty good takes. JP, you said Pittsburgh would miss the playoffs. That's a good take.
And
Look
they
at
did.
that.
Good take. You also said the Coyotes would surprise this season.
They were on
Florida
track.
did, and you could also say they surprised a lot of people. They will no longer be in Arizona.
Yep.
And this one looks pretty good for me. I predicted.
Are you just
that
piling on me?
you didn't have. I don't think you had that many that episode. You saved all your good ones for the blog. I said Vegas would have a cup hangover, and that they would bow out early,
Yeah.
out in the
that's a
first
good one.
round.
Yeah.
All right, Christian. These next 2, they're me and you.
Uh,
So I'll go with you because yours is.
this one's bad.
It's better. No, it's better than mine. You said that Boston would comfortably miss the playoffs.
It made so much. It still makes sense. That's what I don't understand. It makes sense, doesn't it? Tell me I'm wrong. Does it make sense that they could, with that roster, with that lineup, losing Patrice Bergeron and losing David Krejci, you can't tell me that team couldn't have easily missed the playoffs.
They comfortably made the playoffs. How are you making this argument?
No, I'm just saying in theory.
Theory will only take you so far, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a bad take looking bad because
And
It's
they won the
okay.
division.
People are going to forget about it in 2 seconds.
And Christian's going to double down on it next year. I know he is. That'd be like a triple down.
No, I already said. I am not betting against Boston this year because every single time I do, they prove me completely wrong. So I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm not going to say anything.
It's okay. You're gonna.
Yeah,
nobody's
here's the
gonna.
worst one.
Nobody's gonna remember that because this next one I said. Oh man, I said the Rangers would miss the playoffs. They won the President's Trophy.
Yeah.
Is that good?
They're 2 wins away from the Stanley Cup Final.
Jonah hates the Hurricanes and he hates the Rangers.
He hates Metro teams.
God
I hate
damn it.
expansion teams. He hates
What
Metro
the
teams.
hell was I thinking? I
To
mean,
be
I know
fair-
what I was thinking. Look, sorry, I didn't expect 2012 Jonathan Quick to show up for them in the regular season.
While Igor was down, yeah, Jonathan
Igor
Quick
was
stepped in.
It's my bad. Got that one wrong. Yeah, that's a bad miss. I think I also was a bit more down on Laviolette than I should have been. Like, guy's a good coach.
He can never get it done.
Also,
though.
sorry, like I saw Phil Housley on the coaching staff. I didn't see success coming from that team.
You got Michael Pekka though. That's why.
Yeah, that's how I should have known. That's how I should have known they were
Should have known.
they were a lock. All right, so that wraps up everything from the podcast that we did. On to the article. So the way this article was structured, if people didn't read it at the time, we would propose a question and we would just give our answer in response to it. So the first question that we were asked, who was the Sabres MVP going to be this season? Christian, you picked the 60-goal man, Tage Thompson. JP, you picked Devon Levi.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I picked Rasmus Dahlin.
Hey, if Levi would have performed, we would have made the playoffs and he would have been our MVP. So,
well,
I mean, the real MVP probably was JJ Peterka or UPL.
No,
it was
UPL.
It was
It was
UPL.
easily
Come on.
UPL.
Come on. Every chance this guy gets.
Yeah.
Every chance. This guy,
the closest one
when Christian goes to opening night next season, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen lets in 6 goals in a 6-1 blowout to the Ottawa Senators, he's gonna be like, "See,
Yeah.
I told you."
Yep.
I
be in there licking my chops.
I'll be the first guy. All right, so the next question was, which Sabre will break out? JP and Christian, you guys picked JJ Peterka. Me, trying to be different, I picked Jordan Greenway.
So you get for being different.
Yep.
Teach you that in school, man. Never be different.
Just file in with the rest of them.
File in with the rest and shut your mouth.
The next one was, who will surprise people the most? Christian, you picked Peyton Krebs.
Oh.
JP, you picked Jordan Greenway. And I picked Connor Clifton.
That's a swing and a miss for everyone. That's 3 strikes.
So the next question was, who will disappoint the most? So this one's sort of interesting. JP definitely got the worst of it. He picked Alex Tuch, which it's funny because he probably still disappointed a little bit, but
yeah.
So did everybody. Christian, you picked Jack Quinn. So you were kind of right.
In a way.
I just don't think it was I don't remember what the reasoning was.
Did I curse him?
I picked Jeff Skinner.
Oh, you were right on then.
Well, you were wrong for more than half the season, but then at the end he started to disappoint more. So I guess it's not terrible.
Yeah. So the next question in the article was, does Victor Olofsson play the entire season in Buffalo? I said yes. You two said no. No, nothing different from the podcast.
Thought he was going to be a deadline acquisition.
So here's a funny one. We asked the question, does UPL finish the season on the Sabres?
Oh, jeez. Oh, no.
JP and I both said yes.
Oh.
Christian, you said no.
Huh. That doesn't seem like me. Why would I have said that?
Oh, my God.
Okay, going into the season in November, if we did this talk in November, I would be on track.
You would have doubled down.
In November?
Oh, easily,
my
yeah.
God. What, 2 games into his year?
Correct. Small sample sizes are always correct.
This man,
no, but yeah, I missed the ball on that one. I did. I admit, hey, I'm a big man. I'll admit when I'm wrong. UPL had a fantastic year, and I was wrong.
That's on me, boys.
That one's on me.
The next question was, does Tage Thompson hit 50 goals? Christian, you obviously said yes. JP, you also said yes. I said no.
We were blinded.
I do think if I were to guess, I would have said he was probably around there. Definitely not. I definitely wasn't like, oh, he's not even going to hit 30.
Oh man, last season felt like what well, we're still in the drought, but what 2010 season could you compare last season to?
16-17, without a doubt.
Let's hope
they match up.
Let's hope we don't turn into 17-18 because that could get ugly quick.
The next question, does Zach Benson play more than 9 games? Christian, you said yes.
Yes, let's go.
JP, you said no.
Wow.
And I said yes.
Ooh.
The next question, we were all off base. How many games does Ryan Johnson play? Christian, you said 6. JP, you said 12. I said 15. Do you want to guess what his final total was?
It was
25.
40? 21.
41.
Really?
Oh
That
my
many?
God.
He played 41 games.
Man,
for
he
the
must have just been
Sabres.
invisible out there half the time then.
Should we amend our grades?
All right, we're going back to the grades.
The next question was, how many games does Yuri Kulik play?
Mhm.
I said 5 games. JP said 3 games. Christian said 3. He played 1.
Yeah, he only had that one game.
The next one was, how many games does Devon Levi start? I said 55-ish. JP said 50 to 55. And
Oh my
Christian
God.
said minimum 41.
I was the only rational one out of that
You
group.
said minimum.
You said okay, so you guys said 50 to 55. So that implies that UPL would have played under 30 games, meaning he was not good.
We are all delusional.
He played 23.
Boy, yeah.
Goalies are voodoo. Actually, I'll stand by my take. Goalies are voodoo.
The next question, would the Sabres have any award winners this season? I said Dahlin. JP also said Dahlin. But JP also said Granato, as did Christian.
I said Granado.
You said Granato.
Damn.
So this next one, because we all know what was going on at the time. Will Patrick Kane be a Sabre by season's end? I said no. JP also said no. Christian said yes.
Hey, I mean, with how the Sabres were pursuing him, there was a great chance he could have been, and if he wanted to be, he would have been.
And then the last question, do the Sabres make the playoffs?
Ugh.
A resounding yes from all 3 of us.
Oh no.
It hurts. It hurts.
Will it ever happen?
That's all of them. So I think that was always a fun exercise.
We'll do those
God,
again.
that
at the beginning
Rangers
next
one.
season.
That Rangers one is so bad.
That's
Yeah,
the
it was-
worst one.
Miss the playoffs. They win the friggin' President's Trophy.
Yeah, what was the worst? Like for us 3, for each one of us, which one was the worst? Yours was the Rangers one.
Definitely the Rangers. I think
Mine was probably the Bruins or the UPL take. Probably the Bruins.
Yeah, I would say JP
I
is
think mine would be Levi MVP.
Levi MVP. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. Christian's yours might be. Does UPL finish the year on the Sabres?
That could have, yeah, that could have been
That's true.
that could be it too.
I don't know. I guess JP didn't have a wild one we could all laugh. I guess Dahlin hitting 90 points and finishing with the Norris was pretty off base. But it's not conceivably bad, you know. I bet we were patting you on the back like, yes, I love that. So yeah, that's gonna put a wrap on our hot takes, our player grades. One last look at the dreaded season that was 2023 2024 NHL season. So goodbye. I
Yep,
definitely
see ya.
would not
Good
want to
riddance.
redo that ever again.
Nope.
That was pretty bad.
Frustrating.
Christian, did you see the Lindy Ruff video calling
Yeah.
all the season ticket holders? We were right.
Dude,
we had
we were right.
Reddit
We
had
had
it
it.
first, but we talked about it on here.
Like as a joke. We didn't know any of this was going on. We just kind of joked about it. We were just like, man, maybe he could just get season ticket holders back.
And we literally, you made the joke. We're like, he's just reading off of like a piece of paper
Like
and
a
just
script.
reading off a script, doing a super robotic voice. The Sabres video showed exactly that. I was laughing. Oh, it was so funny.
That was funny. We got to make like a short out of that.
All right, I think that's basically going to put a wrap on things. The Panthers 1 win away from the Stanley Cup final. Sam Reinhart, the overtime hero the other night. Love that. Doesn't it hurt
Dang.
so much? I mean, you know how I am with the bumper spot, man. The bumper guy we needed was right there the whole time. The whole time he was there.
Beautiful one-timer. moving on. We gotta keep our head forward.
Until
All
we
right.
talk about his free agent profile.
I
Yeah.
think I saw someone tweet and they said, I think Sam Reinhart would call the police if the Sabres offered him a contract. I think that was Sabres metrics.
Oh, hey, Kevin. How are you?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Imagine he's got his like caller ID in his phone. He just looks at his phone. He's just
It's like,
they're about to offer me $12 million, aren't they?
I really have to go back to Buffalo.
I think that's basically going to do it for this one. I think next time we'll talk. I don't know. Hopefully, it'll be next week. Hopefully Christian has his dryer up and running again.
It's still broken. It's been like 2 weeks.
Did you schedule an appointment to have it like
We're
looked at?
trying, man. We're trying. We already did.
What do
We
you
had a
mean
guy
you're
come
trying? What,
over.
are they not returning your calls?
We had a guy come over and he said he fixed it. Guess what? Didn't fix it. So
Did you get
We'll see.
charged?
no.
Okay. Just
No,
making
sir.
sure. All right.
I did hear rumors that Jonah was actually watching some prospect tape. So
That's
are we
right.
gonna get like a prospect episode?
We might.
For our draft prospect.
Because I think anybody that knows us, we're YouTube scouts. We'll watch a draft video. But I've been reading up on this draft class a little bit, trying to familiarize myself. So maybe we'll do like a fun episode where I try to I lay out all the prospects and you guys got to pick yours. Just try to
I'm a
convince
YouTube
you.
scout on a good day. On a good day.
It's like, well, wow, that guy's pretty good. You see that?
Man, that guy's great. Yeah, he was drafted 6 years ago. You're on the wrong channel. Oh,
I don't know. We'll see. We definitely got some time to fill here before the draft. By the time this episode comes out, we will be in the month of June, so the off season is right around the corner. But I know we will be doing some free agent profile stuff. Like I said, maybe we'll do a draft profile thing, and then hopefully that buys us enough time to where the off season really begins. Last thing I did want to bring up. If there are any Edmonton Oilers fans out there, I'm sorry. I willed into existence a Jason Robertson hat trick. That's my bad. That's my bad.
What about that?
We're texting in our group chat, and I said the words because legitimately I was barely noticing the guy. I'm like, is Jason Robertson playing in this series? Scores his first goal, I think 10 minutes later. And then he scores another. And then he scores the game winner. I have a horrible history of doing this.
bro's a jinx.
The
Sometimes
people
in
don't.
good ways.
The listeners at home don't even know the extent to which I jinx people.
Yeah.
It's
a
actually
curse or
actually,
a
you know what?
blessing?
I've done it a few times on the Sabre Report account. It's happened a few times. I was gifted with powers of jinxing. So you know what? I'll have to use them next season. We'll see what I can do. But I think with that, I think that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to follow us on Twitter at The Sabre Report. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok at The Sabre Report. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. If you want updates for the pod, follow us at Sabre Report Pod. Go give our friends over at the Buffalo Sports Talk podcast a listen. But I think other than that, that'll do it for this one. So thank you very much for listening. Take care. Feel free to leave a review. And go Sabres.
Go Sabres.
Go Sabres.